for about 20 minutes and just stared at this thing. And I probably found 95% of what I thought was going on with the character in those 20 minutes. Bypasses all the research you can do, is just to have that looking back at you and try raising an eyebrow and frowning a bit, and then try saying, you know, I'll tear your soul apart, and it all seemed like fun to me. But I also had a sense of him being melancholy, sense of loss and kind of emotional deadness about him. And I linked that to the idea that he knew he had been human, but he couldn't remember it. Which also to me made sense of why he's so fascinated by human beings, because he's fascinated by his own humanity. It wasn't until Hellbound that that story developed. Otherwise, you know, it's you step on your marks and you open your mouth when they say action, and you hope it makes sense.
Can you all talk a little bit about the actual process of getting dressed, into the makeup, into the costumes? You mentioned it took 4 hours, Barbie, and you mentioned that it was literally sculpted to your body, so it was difficult to move. So could you guys talk about the process and how long it took for each of you?
All of our makeups were sculpted to our heads, because they do a life cast first to make that.
Oh, a little closer.
Coming to the microphone.
To make us fit.
Let the people hear you.
All right, guys. Here is the news.
Mine was probably one of the easiest makeups, because it was skin tight inside. It was about 2 inches of expanded foam latex. It had no eye holes, because the character's eyes were sewn up, so there were no eye holes in the makeup at all. There were no ear holes in the makeup, because his ears were cut off. There were no eye holes, because he got a little button nose, and for some reason they didn't put nose holes in. So it took 3 of them. First of all, they put a skull cap on my head, and then make my mouth up black a little bit, just so you couldn't see me through the makeup. What I found out about 4 years ago was that it became a running joke to see how big they could make this black makeup around my mouth. So by the end of Hellraiser 2, it was like half of my face was black all down my neck, even though all you could really see was this little bit here. Then so the skull cap, the black makeup, Vaseline on my eyebrows to stop my eyebrows being pulled off, and then the costume, which for me was like a fiberglass yoke with the wound inside of it made out of latex, and then across that would be laced the leather costume, and the arms, which were separate, as I believe, which then kind of laced onto the hands. The leather was very thick on all of our costumes, which made it very difficult to move very much in them. So mine kind of was just this kind of big, like, bell that I was inside. And then Jesus sandals, I believe. We have had this conversation before. I think Jesus sandals. And
Sandals?
yeah.
I thought you said saddles. I was trying to work out. Why Jesus needed saddles.
I don't remember the saddle.
Hey,
Well, he rode a donkey.
we're in
I suppose
Texas.
Yeah.
Jesus saddles.
Jesus boots.
Jesus boots.
Yeah.
Desert wellies, we called them in Liverpool.
Desert wellies. Flip-flops.
And then it took 3 of them to pull this great big mask down onto my face. Halfway down, it was covering my nose and my mouth, and I always got to that point and thought, if it sticks here now and they can't pull it down any further, I'm going to suffocate to death. But they never did. They always got it on, and then once it was on, they would stick the edges down with surgical super glue to make sure it. Well, the idea was that it moved with my face, but I found out on the very first day of shooting, sitting next to Doug, and saying, because I couldn't see anything, completely blind, sitting next to Doug and saying, Doug, I'm just going to try a few things with my face. Can you tell me what is moving on my face? And I did a few kind of subtle actory kind of things to see. Doug went